Hard to...
No, I know,
Let's
Mick.
go.
I don't want to
Let's
kill
go.
a spontaneity, but I think the audience wants to hear that.
You guys can help out. Speak up so I can hear you over the music.
Okay.
Can you roll tape, please?
Are you ready to go?
Stand by, please. We're going 5, 4, 3, 2.
How did you get involved in the S Festival in the first place? How did that all come down?
Bill Graham pretty much cajoled us into doing it. We figured it was going to... Well, actually, we were in a rehearsal, in one of our rehearsal spaces, and we didn't want to play right now. But he made us an impossibly attractive offer, so we did.
Mickey, you were saying, because you were out there for like 3 hours this morning. I know the Dead are used to playing long sets. We all know that. But I don't know, I can't recall you playing at that hour in the morning for such a long time. It's such a hot day.
Yeah, it's really unusual. You have to you get your momentum going early before the heat gets you, and then you just ride that wave if you can, and just pray. Get out there, because it's really, music is hard to make even under perfect conditions, you know, and then when you have to...
Sometimes it's easy.
Yeah, sometimes it is when it goes right. I mean, he's got slippery strings and I got slippery sticks, and everything sort of, you know,
It could have been
away.
worse. It could have been worse. We could have had to play at this hour. It's really hot out there now.
Oh, yeah,
it's hot in here.
It takes its toll, the heat, and you have to play through it. It's sort of fun in a way. It's a challenge, but you know, sometimes it takes its toll on the music.
Well, after all this time, you've seen just about every particular environment you can...
This is a new one. This is the earliest we've ever played.
Yeah, I thought so. Tell me, did you actually take an interest in the concept itself, or was this just another gig for you?
Oh, it's an interesting concept. Of course we did. The idea of, well,
both.
music and technology has been a long, rocky marriage to begin with, and now it's starting to sort of get explosive. And right here we have examples at the cutting edge of music and technology. It's interesting.
You know, obviously everyone knows that you did Woodstock 13 years ago. How would you compare?
This is quite different. Music is quite different these days. People are quite different these days. I don't know. We've been sort of immersed in now for ever since we've been involved in being who we are. So it's kind of hard for me to recall what it was like back then.
Well, one of the things is the surprise element is not there. You know, in Woodstock, no one knew what was happening next minute, and here everything is known.
Well,
I mean, everything pretty much is figured out by the computers, and so there's that element that's missing.
Well,
yet it's exciting. Yet it still has excitement.
And nobody knew. There was an element of surprise here, and nobody knew whether or not this was going to actually happen or not, or whether it was going to be a big success or a fizzle. And it's turned out to be something of a success.
One of the nice things, too, for me, as I noticed, because I go back a long way as well, is that the audience seems to be really nice. They've had a minimum amount of problems. I mean, and in that way, it compares, I think.
It's better for the audience than Woodstock was. You had to sweat it out in Woodstock. They didn't have any facilities, and
Practice makes perfect. The
Yes.
audience is better at being geared for the event, and also the promoters and the production crews are better at putting on a better conceived show.
there's not that much panic. Now people are used to having we've had large crowds in the past. Remember, that was the first gigantic one. So now there's not that panic. It's really, they take it in stride, you know. It's another 100,000 people.
Bill Uncle Bobo Graham has got a lot of practice under his belt at putting on these kind of
It's a
events.
great art form to be able to take care of that many people safely. I mean, it's not easy. It really isn't, you know.
Bands were certainly more political back, say, around the Woodstock period, and because they had an awful lot to be political about at the time. Do you see a resurgence, though? I've noticed as of late, people are becoming, the musicianship, say in the 70s, the songs were basically about I love you, you love me, but I noticed in the last couple of years, people are starting to make statements again and stand up for what they believe in. How do you see that?
Well, art and music is its own politics. We forward a political aesthetic, really. I mean, it's alternative, and all these groups do. We're putting out something that people can attach to.
We're not running for office.
We're not running for office, but they vote for us by buying our records or coming to our concerts. And they, you know, they rally around our aesthetic, just as they would around a political aesthetic.
Yeah, because the music has values, social and political connotation, and it has all of that. And they can also read into it what they want. So it's not dogma that's that's etched in granite or anything.
But art and music really do affect social order. And
It's a new social order. Right.
and we're manufacturing social order, I guess.
Sculpting it.
Do you think that has an awful lot to do with how you've been able to, after all these years, maintain, those loyal Deadhead fans, and they keep growing in number, and you recycle an audience? What I mean by recycling is that you seem to maintain the olders, and yet at the same time, younger kids are joining the force.
God love them.
I mean, do you see it that way as well?
Yeah.
Because I noticed when you played New York City last time, and you were going to play Radio City Music Hall, the kids were lined up, and young kids too.
Something about being a parent and you be able to share a Grateful Dead experience with your child. Here's something you can do with your child that you have in common with them. And it's far out. In a way, it's a unique experience that you can have with another generation.
Rock and roll as an art form transcends age barriers. It really does.
It's social barrier. It's just an equalizer. Everybody in the eyes of rock and roll is the same. When you're out there listening, you're being moved. Money or social position doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I agree and I disagree. What I mean by that is I think you're right. With certain bands and certain artists, that is very, very true. There are also certain artists. Oh, shit.